Margaret Walsh was dying, and everyone at St. Catherine's Hospital knew it. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors had given her maybe a week, possibly less. She was 76 years old, had been a widow for 3 years, and had no children. Her room on the 4th floor was quiet, away from the celebration preparations happening throughout the rest of the hospital. It was December 31st, 2023, New Year's Eve. Outside her window, Denver was preparing for celebrations. Fireworks were being set up. Restaurants were filling with people dressed in their finest clothes. Families were gathering. But Margaret lay in her hospital bed, her breathing shallow, her body failing. Nurse Jennifer Martinez had been assigned to Margaret for the past 5 days. At 34 years old, Jennifer had been a nurse for almost a decade, and she had seen many patients in their final days. But there was something different about Margaret. Despite the pain, despite knowing what was coming, Margaret remained calm, almost peaceful. She spent most of her time with her rosary, the wooden beads worn smooth from decades of use, her lips moving in silent prayer. It was around 6 p.m. when Jennifer came in to check Margaret's vitals. The older woman's eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was labored, each breath seeming to take enormous effort. "Margaret," Jennifer said softly, adjusting the IV drip. "How are you feeling? Do you need anything for the pain?" Margaret turned her head slowly. Her eyes, though tired, were still bright. "No, dear. I'm all right. The pain is bearable." She paused, gathering strength. "Jennifer, what time is it?" "It's just after 6, New Year's Eve." Jennifer smiled gently. "They're going to have a small celebration downstairs at midnight. Nothing too loud, but enough to mark the occasion." Margaret's thin hand reached for Jennifer's. The grip was weak, but there was urgency in it. "Jennifer, I need to ask you something. I need you to promise me something." Jennifer sat down in the chair beside the bed. In her years as a nurse, she had learned that when dying patients asked for promises, you listened. "What is it, Margaret?" "I want to stay awake until midnight. I know what my body is doing. I know I don't have much time left. The doctors think maybe I won't make it through the night." Tears began to form in Margaret's eyes. "But I need to see the new year. I need to be awake at midnight." Jennifer felt something tighten in her chest. "Margaret, if you're tired, you should rest. We can adjust your medication to make you more comfortable." "No." Margaret's voice was firm, stronger than it had been in days. "Please, Jennifer, I've been praying for something. For weeks now, I've been asking the Virgin Mary for one thing. Just one thing before I go." She paused, struggling for breath. "I want to see her. I want to see the Virgin Mary before I die. And I truly believe that at midnight, when the new year comes, she'll come to me." Jennifer didn't know what to say. She had heard many things from dying patients, hallucinations from medication, confusion, fear, acceptance. But Margaret was lucid, completely aware, and the conviction in her voice was absolute. "I'll do everything I can to keep you comfortable and awake," Jennifer finally said. "I promise." Margaret squeezed her hand. "Thank you, dear, thank you." At 8 p.m., Jennifer informed the night shift supervisor, Karen Mitchell, about Margaret's request. Karen was 52, had been a nurse for nearly 30 years, and had seen everything a hospital could offer. She listened to Jennifer's explanation with a neutral expression. "She wants to stay awake until midnight because she thinks she'll see the Virgin Mary?" Karen's tone wasn't mocking, just clarifying. "Yes. And she's adamant about it. I've never seen her so determined about anything." Jennifer checked the tablet with Margaret's chart. "Her vitals are deteriorating. Blood pressure is dropping. Respiratory rate is inconsistent. Honestly, I'm surprised she's still conscious." Karen looked through the window into Margaret's room. The older woman was awake, rosary in her hands, lips moving in prayer. All right. We keep her comfortable. If she wants to be awake, we do what we can. But Jennifer, you know how this works. When the body decides it's time, there's nothing we can do. I know. But I promised her I'd try. By 9:01 p.m., word had spread among the night staff. There was something about Margaret's wish, about the quiet conviction of a dying woman wanting one last moment of grace, that touched everyone who heard about it. Nurses who weren't assigned to the 4th floor found reasons to pass by her room. Dr. Richard Torres, who had been Margaret's attending physician, stopped by to check on her. "Mrs. Walsh," he said gently, "Jennifer tells me you want to stay awake until midnight." Margaret nodded weakly. "I do, doctor. I know what you're going to say, that I should rest, that I should let go. But I can't. Not yet. Not until midnight." Dr. Torres had been a physician for 25 years. He believed in science, in medicine, in what could be proven and measured. But he also believed in dignity, in allowing patients their final wishes when possible. "All right, Margaret, we'll do our best. But if the pain becomes too much, you need to tell us." "I will. But I can bear it. For 3 more hours, I can bear anything." At 10:00 p.m., Jennifer returned to Margaret's room. The older woman was struggling now. Her breathing had become more irregular. Her skin had taken on a grayish pallor. Jennifer checked the monitors. Blood pressure 82/54. Heart rate 52 and dropping. Oxygen saturation 88%. These were the numbers of someone slipping away. Jennifer had seen it too many times. Usually at this stage, patients were either unconscious or heavily sedated. But Margaret's eyes were open, fixed on the small window in her room where she could see the night sky. "Margaret, I need to be honest with you," Jennifer said softly. "Your body is shutting down. If you want more pain medication, now is the time to say so." Margaret turned her head. "How long until midnight?" Jennifer checked her watch. 1 hour and 53 minutes. "Then I wait. The pain reminds me I'm still here, still alive, still able to receive the grace I've been praying for." She reached for Jennifer's hand again. "Stay with me, please. I don't want to be alone." Jennifer felt tears burning in her eyes. "I'll stay. I promise." At 11:00 p.m., Karen came into the room. She had brought another nurse, David Chen, with her. David was 28, had been working at St. Catherine's for 4 years, and was known for his calm presence with dying patients. "Jennifer, you've been on shift since 3:00 p.m., Karen said. "Why don't you take a break? David and I can stay with Margaret." But before Jennifer could answer, Margaret spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, Jennifer, you promised to stay." Jennifer looked at Karen, who nodded. "All right, I'll stay." The 4 of them remained in the room as the final hour approached. Karen and David stood near the door, quiet, respectful. Jennifer sat beside Margaret's bed, holding her hand. Outside, they could hear the sounds of the hospital, the distant beep of monitors, footsteps in the hallway, someone laughing at the nurses' station, life continuing even as Margaret's was ending. At 11:30 p.m., Margaret's breathing changed. It became shallow, rapid, desperate, her eyes closed. Jennifer checked the monitors, blood pressure 70/48, heart rate 45. "Margaret," Jennifer whispered. Margaret, stay with me." Margaret's eyes opened. "Still here, still waiting. How long?" 28 minutes. Margaret nodded, a tiny movement. "She'll come. I know she will." At 11:45 p.m., Dr. Torres returned. He looked at the monitors and his expression darkened. He pulled Karen aside, speaking in low tones, but Jennifer could hear every word. "She's in active dying. Blood pressure is critical. Heart rate is barely sustainable. She should be unconscious by now. I don't understand how she's still aware." Karen glanced at Margaret. "She's waiting for midnight. She believes the Virgin Mary is going to appear to her. Dr. Torres ran a hand through his graying hair. Karen, you know as well as I do that... I know what I know, Richard. And I also know that sometimes, at the end, things happen that we can't explain. I've seen patients hold on for days waiting for a loved one to arrive, then pass away minutes after they do. I've seen people rally at the end for no medical reason. Let her have this. Dr. Torres looked through the window at Margaret. The dying woman's lips were still moving, still praying. All right. We wait until midnight, but after that, if she's still with us, we need to increase the morphine. I won't let her suffer. By 11:50 p.m., the room had grown colder. Jennifer noticed it first. It wasn't the temperature from the hospital's climate control, it was different. A chill that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. She saw David shiver and pull his scrubs tighter. Is it just me? David whispered. Or did it just get freezing in here? Karen felt it too. She checked the thermostat on the wall. Temperature says 72 degrees, same as it's been all night. But everyone in the room could feel it. A cold that made their breath visible in small clouds. A cold that had no source. Margaret's eyes were wide open now, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing had stabilized, becoming deeper, more rhythmic. The monitors showed something impossible. Her blood pressure was rising. 78 over 52, 82 over 54. Her heart rate was strengthening. 52 beats per minute. 56, 58. What the hell? Dr. Torres was staring at the monitors. This doesn't make any sense. She should be declining, not stabilizing. Jennifer was watching Margaret's face. The older woman was smiling. Not the pained grimace of someone in agony, but a genuine, peaceful smile. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. Margaret, Jennifer whispered, what's happening? She's coming, Margaret breathed. I can feel her. She's almost here. At 11:55 p.m., something changed in the room. Jennifer would later struggle to describe it. It wasn't a sound, wasn't a sight, wasn't anything she could point to and say definitively existed. But everyone in the room felt it. A presence, something gentle, something warm despite the cold, something that made the air itself seem to vibrate with a frequency just below hearing. Karen gripped the edge of Margaret's bed. David took a step back, his eyes wide. Dr. Torres stood frozen, staring at nothing and everything. The clock on the wall ticked toward midnight. 11:57, 11:58, 11:59. Margaret's hand tightened around Jennifer's with strength that shouldn't have been possible for someone so close to death. She's here, Margaret whispered. She's right here. Can't you see her? Jennifer looked around the room. She saw Karen. She saw David. She saw Dr. Torres. She saw the medical equipment, the bland hospital walls, the windows showing the dark Denver night. But she also saw something else, or felt it, or knew it was there in a way that transcended normal perception. In the corner of the room by the window there was something. Not quite visible, not quite invisible. A presence that radiated peace and love so profound it made Jennifer's chest ache. The clock struck midnight. The moment the clock's hands aligned, everything changed. The cold that had filled the room suddenly vanished, replaced by warmth. Not the artificial warmth of heating vents, but natural warmth, like standing in sunlight on a spring morning. The presence in the corner of the room intensified. Jennifer could swear she saw the outline of a figure. Tall, draped in flowing robes with a face too bright to look at directly. Margaret was crying freely now, her eyes fixed on the corner of the room. My lady, she whispered. My blessed mother. You came. You really came. The monitors were going wild. Margaret's blood pressure had risen to 110 over 70. Her heart rate was 72 beats per minute, strong and steady. Her oxygen saturation had climbed to 96%. numbers that were impossible for someone who minutes ago had been actively dying. Dr. Torres was staring at the monitors in complete disbelief. This is medically impossible. She was in multi-organ failure. She should be dead or unconscious, not improving. But Margaret wasn't just improving. She was transforming before their eyes. The grayish pallor was leaving her skin, replaced by a healthy pink glow. Her breathing was deep and even. Her eyes, which had been clouded with pain and exhaustion, were now clear and bright. Karen had backed against the wall, one hand over her mouth. David was openly crying. Jennifer held Margaret's hand and felt warmth radiating from the older woman, a warmth that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside, somewhere beyond the physical. Margaret was speaking, but not to them. "Thank you," she was saying, her voice clearer than it had been in weeks. "Thank you for this gift. Thank you for coming to me. I'm ready now. I'm not afraid." The presence in the corner seemed to pulse with light. Jennifer did see it then, just for a moment. A woman in blue robes, her face radiating such love and compassion that Jennifer felt her own tears begin to flow. The figure's hand was extended toward Margaret, as if offering something or perhaps beckoning. "I'm coming," Margaret said softly. "I'm ready to come home." And then, at 12:03 a.m. on January 1st, 2024, Margaret Walsh took a deep breath, smiled peacefully, and closed her eyes. The monitors showed her heart rate slowing. 72, 68, 60, 52, 40, 28, 15, and then a single steady tone as the line went flat. But her face remained peaceful. Radiant even, there was no pain, no struggle, just peace. The presence in the corner faded. The warmth slowly dissipated. The room returned to normal temperature, but everyone who had been in that room knew they had witnessed something that defied explanation. Dr. Torres stepped forward and checked Margaret's pulse, his hands shaking. Time of death, 12:03 a.m. His voice was barely audible. He looked at the monitors, at the chart, at Margaret's peaceful face. "I've been a doctor for 25 years. I've never seen anything like this. She was dying. And then for 3 minutes she wasn't. She improved, and then she chose to let go." Karen was wiping tears from her face. She got her wish. She saw the Virgin Mary at midnight. "Did we all see her?" David asked, his voice trembling. "Did we all feel that presence?" Jennifer looked at each of them. They all nodded slowly. 4 medical professionals trained in science and evidence, all confirming they had experienced something beyond medical explanation. Over the next hour, as they prepared Margaret's body, as they filled out the necessary paperwork, as they informed the morgue, they barely spoke. What was there to say? How do you document a miracle in medical charts? It was around 2 a.m. when Jennifer finally left Margaret's room. She walked to the small chapel on the first floor of St. Catherine's Hospital. It was empty, quiet. She sat in the front pew and stared at the statue of the Virgin Mary standing beside the altar. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving her that moment. Thank you for letting us witness it." Jennifer would work many more years as a nurse. She would see hundreds more patients die. Some peacefully, some struggling, some surrounded by family, some alone. But she would never forget New Year's Eve 2023. The night Margaret Walsh, a dying widow with unwavering faith, was granted her final wish at the stroke of midnight. The hospital officially listed Margaret's cause of death as pancreatic cancer with multi-organ failure. The medical explanation was straightforward and unremarkable. But the 4 people who were in that room knew differently. They knew they had witnessed something that transcended medicine, something that proved faith and love could manifest in ways science couldn't measure or explain. Karen retired 3 years later. Before she left, she told the story to every new nurse who started working at St. Catherine's. "Never dismiss what a patient tells you they believe," she would say. Never assume that what we can measure is all that exists. I was there, I felt it, I saw it, and it changed everything I thought I knew. Dr. Torres kept Margaret's chart in his office for years, pulling it out sometimes late at night and staring at those impossible vital signs from 11:55 p.m. to 12:03 a.m. The spike in blood pressure, the strengthened heart rate, the improved oxygen saturation, all in a patient who should have already been gone. David left nursing 2 years later to become a priest. When people asked him why he made such a dramatic change, he would simply say, "I saw something once that showed me there's more to this world than we understand. I want to dedicate my life to that mystery." And Jennifer? She continued working at St. Catherine's Hospital. She continued caring for dying patients, holding their hands, making their final hours as comfortable as possible. But now, whenever a patient expressed a final wish, no matter how impossible it seemed, she never dismissed it. She never said it couldn't happen, because she had been there. She had felt the presence in that room. She had watched a dying woman granted 3 minutes of impossible life to receive the grace she had prayed for. Margaret Walsh was buried on January 6, 2024, the Feast of the Epiphany. At her funeral, attended by a small group of friends from her church and the 4 medical professionals who had been with her at the end, the priest spoke about faith and miracles. Margaret lived a quiet life, he said. She never asked for much. She never sought attention or acclaim, but she had absolute faith, and in her final moments that faith was rewarded, not because she deserved it more than anyone else, but because grace works in mysterious ways, appearing when and where it's needed most. Jennifer stood at the back of the church, tears streaming down her face. She looked at the statue of the Virgin Mary in the corner, so similar to the presence she had felt in Margaret's hospital room. And in that moment she could have sworn the statue smiled.